Get started here in about a 30 or 60 seconds, top of the hour, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. So happy lunch hour for most everybody. Still people coming in. That's good. Love to see that. All right. Well, it is finally time to go. It is July 10th, Thursday, July 10th, 2025. I am joined by Lael Sturm here from Ogmentor Virtual Assistants. Lael, how you doing today? Glad to have you.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Yes, yes, I am glad. Full transparency. I do use Augmentor. I'm very happy and in part, but that's why I brought him on because I've had so much value through the service. Shout out to Gerard. I'm sure you're watching. You're the best. I appreciate you. But today, we're talking about the ROI, especially for business owners and leaders, of delegating the $20 task to a virtual sales assistant. So, Lael, what's the very first thing that somebody who has never been involved with a virtual assistant, what do they need to know about the ROI of this $20 task delegation?
Yeah, so good way to think about it is your time is worth something. I don't know.
Yes.
Everybody's time is worth something. And the more you make in your business, the more you earn in your salary, the more your time is worth, frankly.
Absolutely.
So just for the sake of conversation, let's start with $500 an hour. Okay. If you make $500 an hour, whether you're actually billing that, you're an attorney or you're a
Yeah.
doctor or you're a consultant or something, and you charge people $500 an hour, or you don't charge hourly, you do a service or you make a product or something like that, but your business makes X number of dollars a year and you divide up the number of hours that you spend in your business and it works out to $500 an hour.
Yeah.
Any hour you spend doing a task that somebody else could do for you, that costs you $500.
Absolutely.
So there are things like managing your calendar, like doing research, like putting together reports, like refining a PowerPoint presentation
Yeah.
that an assistant can do for you at a fraction of the cost, often $20 or less, that
Hmm.
saves you $500. So that's what we're talking about. How do we free you up from the stuff that you have to do to run your business that somebody else can do for you so that you can use those hours either to invest into more strategic things that actually make you lots of money, or improving your golf game, or spending time with your kids, or whatever it is you want to do with that time.
Absolutely. I like that you talked about the math equation. It's very easy for those who are in a billable work environment. Maybe you're an engineer, business owner, MSP, whatever the case is, you're
Yeah.
creative. But even if you're not billable, the more people you manage, the larger pool of revenue you manage, the more clients, you can quantify it one of a couple different ways. I like that you brought up about how much do you pay yourself for the year, both compensation from profit and your salary, and divide that by the time you spend. That obviously is a great way. But then also looking at, if I spent this hour of time on this task, what would be the ROI if I was chasing the client, looking into improving our efficiency and our utilization metrics, or taking a look into the finances and preparing and planning for next year, as opposed to, as you said, making a prospect list, doing calendaring, looking for different lower hanging fruits and updates. And I think that's a really, most don't think about it. Okay, I'm looking at, can I even hire a virtual assistant? Well, if you turn it into a math equation, I know the accounting and finance guy always got to turn it into a problem here, but if you'd say, oh, if I'm going to spend $2,000 a month and it saves me X amount of hours, can I at least get one client or find efficiencies to save to pay for that during that time? Or at the very least, are my hours, as you said, am I not spending 10 hours on a Saturday doing all this work? Can I spend more time with my family? And I think there's a lot of ways to quantify it. Now, when you see the engagements, what's the most successful case study for those who have never had a sales assistant before, but they want to try one out? What are some of the signs of, hey, you're going to have a good engagement with this and it's going to really bring a lot of value to you? Maybe not day one, but that first week, that second week.
Yeah. So where everybody needs to start is they need to think about what it is they're going to delegate. What can they get
Yes.
off of their plate? The worst case is you hire somebody and you're like, I don't know what to do with this
Hmm.
person. Now my agency, we have a managed model, so we'll assign a manager to you who will work with you to help you figure out how to fully utilize that assistant.
Absolutely.
But whether you're working with us or you're working with somebody directly or you're working with another agency, the first thing I recommend is you get yourself a little paper notebook. I carry these around. I give them out. I recommend a paper notebook, not using the notebook app in your phone, because you'll start using that and then forget about it 10 minutes later and never look at it again.
Yep.
And in the notebook, as you make your way through your day, write down every single thing you do. Every single thing, no matter how, no matter what minutia, checking email, taking a sales call, dealing with a customer service complaint, getting myself a cup of tea, making a hotel reservation, every single thing you jot it down. If you do that, and by the way, it's a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie. It sucks to do. But if you do that for 4 or 5 days in a row, you're going to have a complete list of everything that you're doing for the week, and go through that list and put a star next to every item that somebody else could have done for you. Now go get yourself a cup of tea. Somebody can't do that for you virtually. They're not in your office. They can't do that for you. But confirm your appointment. Somebody else can do that for you. Look at what the competition is doing on social media. Somebody else can do that for you. Prepare a prospects list, do outreach, do follow-up with the people that are already in your sales pipeline. That's a huge, huge ROI on doing that kind of work. It has to get done. It doesn't have to get done by you.
Yeah. I think that audit that you talk about, it does take some time. When I first started with having a sales assistant, I had kind of known an idea of here's what I want. And a lot of what came from that was, okay, if I want them to take this over, how can I put them in a position to succeed? How can I be a good coach, a good manager, a good leader to give them the tools to be successful? And sometimes there's easy things like, hey, if I prepare this, they can post on LinkedIn. Or I can build a process of how we create content and then they can run with that. And it's going to take a little more upfront investment. But the beauty of it is now that machine works. And I think it's the difference between being a business owner and really an operator. Are you operating, doing the day to day, doing all the work? Or are you an owner thinking about how do I build a system? How do I build a process? How can I sit on top of the process and make adjustments to it? For an example, we started really basic. We started posting content on some long form articles. Now we're at the point a couple months later where we have a cadence. We're now making testing. We're testing A/B posting. We're saying this messaging, putting the link here and formatting. And now my assistant Gerard, he's ahead of me in certain aspects and steps. And yes, that took a lot of time to get there. But the value it brings to me is I'm meeting with more prospects. I'm able to travel and be in more frontline events. Those things that nobody else can do, I'm now maximizing the human element, so to speak, and my individual contribution. I think that's where many struggle. It's create that list first. Hey, I find out that I'm spending 2 hours a day sending emails back and forth to follow up and calendar and this and that. Can I build a template in 5 minutes and somebody else do this for me
Right.
and do the follow ups and so on? When you talk about a sales assistant, what does that really include? Like, can somebody expect to say, hey, they're going to help close deals, they're going to prospect, they're going to do marketing? Like, what does the typical engagement look like when you have a sales assistant?
Yeah. So a sales assistant engagement is going to be customized for the client. So whatever tools you're using will accommodate. If you're in the Google environment, we'll do that. If you're using HubSpot, we'll support that. If you're using Salesforce, we'll support that. So we're going to meet you where you are, but also try to raise the level of the work that you're doing. So you make money when you close deals. Like, let's be honest, a salesperson makes money when they close deals, but there's 10 other things that need to happen before you can close that deal. As much of that as you can get off of your plate, that's what we want to do. So whether it's prospecting, you think, oh, I want to enter this new market. What does this market look like? Who do I need to be talking to in this market? Or, are there conferences that I should be going to that I can, that I can sponsor, that I can book travel to? Once you've got that list, doing the initial outreach, whether it's a cold call, a cold email, reaching out to somebody on social media, responding to the people who post comments on this video. There's all sorts of ways to engage with people that your assistant can be doing for you, all the way up to appointment setting. And then the appointment set, once that's set and the lead is qualified and they're ready to go, you come in and close. So that's the model.
Yeah, I think it's where within that funnel from prospecting to the first lead contact to closing of the deal, there's steps along the way where you can condense and you can combine that effort where they're on the clock when you're not, or they're taking care of things as you're working on the next thing. I think one of the biggest differences, let's say, for instance, myself, I'm in a director of business development role. My whole focus is around sales, growth, marketing, partnerships, all the offensive elements of the business. It's pretty seamless to bring on a sales assistant for me. This is the world I live in on a daily basis. What are some of the challenges and resolutions for the business owner, the owner who's doing sales and owner driven, like the MSPs and agencies and consulting firms? What are some of the challenges that they face with bringing on a sales assistant, and how do you guys, or what do you look to remedy those?
Yeah. So the most successful clients that we engage with already
Mhm.
have some experience delegating. They've had an assistant in the
Got
past,
it.
or they've got a team of people already. So if you're a solo and you're not used to delegating, that's often a challenge. But let's assume that this is a business owner, a business leader who has some experience delegating. They're not
Mhm.
afraid to trust other people to handle some of the support roles. The most successful engagements split their assistant's time uh, between projects that come up, things where it's
Mhm.
like, hey, here's a prospect that we need to get X, Y, and Z together for, get those things together for me and send it over, and ongoing work. Like, assistant, anytime you have extra time,
Yep.
please do prospecting. Please do follow up. Make sure
Yes.
that you're reaching out to, 100 people a week, 1,000 people a week, whatever your cadence is. Get those done in your free time so that technically there is no slack. So you've got
Yes.
enough flexibility in the model that when a crisis comes up, or when a situation demands your attention, you
Mhm.
can apply your assistant resource to that thing without sacrificing on anything else. But when that work is done, they're not coming back to you and saying, hey, what should I do next? What should I do
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Because there's an infinite number of things that they can do around prospecting, outreach, and follow up.
Yeah, I think that's you mentioned a good balance there about they have to have some routine, consistent systems while also having tasks. And I think so many, and I came in with this orientation at first, I'm like, what tasks can they take off my plate? But you don't want to be tasky because then as things, they get through that list or things are gone, you're like, okay, I'm scrambling how to build work. So
Right.
what are the routine processes and inputs? And I would say focus less on the tasks and more on the inputs of what you would like to achieve. If I know I want to get 5 leads and 3 meetings and 1 diagnostic booked in per week, that means I need to have at least 50 to 100 outreaches, so to speak, in this example.
Right.
So I want them to take their time to do that. Or if we're saying on a marketing side, I need more impressions, I need more shares and contacts, you can give them the list, you can give them the content to work on in between. So
Yeah.
there's never that lapse of productivity. And you're not also finding yourself saying, wow, I hired an assistant and I'm more distracted because I'm constantly thinking, what can I have them do instead of focusing on the role of my task at hand?
Yeah, so you bring up a really excellent point there, which is metrics. How do you
Yes.
measure success? If you don't
Hmm.
know how to
Hmm.
measure success, you won't know success when it happens. So,
Yes.
this is true in all aspects of life, but certainly when you're working with an assistant, you have to give them something to shoot for. What's the goal here? How will we know if this is working out or if we have to make changes? So it might be number of leads contacted. It might be
Yeah.
number of posts prepared and submitted to various social media channels. It might be number of follow-up emails sent. It
Mhm.
might be meetings set. It might be the sales that result from those meetings. So you as the business owner have to figure out what moves the needle for you.
Yeah, and I would always caution business owners when you're judging a sales professional on the outputs, because outputs aren't in their control, the inputs are. Inputs will directly lead to outputs, but it can vary wildly. Meaning, don't judge off, oh, they closed this many deals or they had this many meetings where people attended. No, how many contacts have they made? How many conversations? How many impressions? How many reach outs? Like, do
Yeah.
it that way, and then say, how are the inputs affecting the outputs? How many meetings that we had attended, how many demos, how many proposals, how much closed business, because then you'll say, all right, this stream we increased. We said, okay, we want 100 cold emails. Now we're at 500. It did nothing to increase the outputs. we need to focus on a different input instead of wondering why the output's not there. And I think that's a very big caution. Hey, this is how you judge success of a sales professional as opposed to other professionals within your organization. When you talk about a sales assistant, what is the most successful? Is it starting with a part-time and ramping up? Is it going full-time? Is it case by case depending on the skill set and what challenges are being faced? Like, where do you see the most successful engagements in terms of how the allotments of time that they work with to start?
Yeah. So a lot of people want to start with a part-time assistant just to get their feet wet, just to see if it's going to work. I can tell
Yeah.
you when it comes to sales assistants, there's very little logic associated with limiting the hours that they spend doing the work. So if you find a productive engagement, you find an assistant, you come up with a system and they're producing well, why would you only want them 20 hours a week? You
Yeah.
want them 40 hours a week or 1,000,000 hours a week if you can get them, right? So it should be the more work they do, the better your business performs. So that's really what we're going for, that kind of a model where the more you engage with your assistant, the more work they do, the more money you make.
Yep. Yep. Now, in terms of quantifying that ROI, we've talked about the ROI of why. So your time's worth this, but once you get into that engagement, how does that return on investment equation calculate? Say you're paying X amount of dollars a month for that assistant now. Yes, it's freed up your time. And let's say, oh, I've allocated those hours elsewhere. They're no longer a factor in this discussion. Then how do you judge the return on investment of a sales assistant?
Yeah. So follow me on the math here.
Yeah.
Obviously you guys are math centric, so this should be no challenge. Let's go back to $500 an hour. Your hours are worth $500 each. Now we've already talked about the subtraction equation. If you can subtract, $480 of your time to get the same amount of work done, you should do that. That's, it's effectively money in the bank. Now let's talk about the multiplication equation. So if you've got a sales assistant, or really any assistant, frankly, that's working for you for 40 hours a week, that's a full-time assistant. That's going to cost you about $40,000 a year. Okay.
Yeah.
If they can free up 10 hours a week, okay, they're working 40 hours, but they're making 10 hours for you to work. Those 10 hours at $500 an hour over the course of the year, that's $250,000.
Yeah.
Okay. If you've got 250,000 incremental dollars that you're paying $40,000 to get, that's a pretty good investment. In fact, I challenge you to present another investment that's going to perform as well consistently.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the other side of the equation. What's the multiplication? And even if it's, hey, I pay 40,000 and I get one deal a month, quantify it based on that. You can even go more granular if you want to get the accounting. Hey, if an average deal I get $5,000 at MRR, I get 2,500 at gross margin at a 50%, and I'm able to do that over 12 months, 60,000, still on a profit level. It's even better driving. And you can go down to the T of, hey, every dollar that this assistant helps me drive does this much to my bottom line.
Right.
And that makes the full circle equation of, yes, it's profitable from an opportunity cost of me as the business owner, but then it's also profitable based on what it does to the bottom line financials of my business.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one other thing that we haven't really talked about is if you're building your business to sell and you're hoping that somebody's going to come and take this business off of your hands at some point, you need to not be the only person who delivers results in that business, or that's called getting hired, right? That's not an exit. That's getting a job. So if you want to build an infrastructure of a business that somebody else is going to be willing to pay you some multiple for, you better have other people in the organization that know how to do the things. So when you take your big buyout and go spend, time on your private island, that business still operates.
Yeah, Lael, I think that's a great point. I'm constantly talking about the drivers of valuation, specifically usually around MSPs, but this is agnostic across every business. Yes, your gross margin matters, your top line revenue matters, your EBITDA, your profitability. That's a big part. That's your starting basis of valuation. The other things matter. your operational efficiencies, your churn, your historic growth rate, but then also the process. If you are the rainmaker, or you the sales guy as the owner, you are going to lose valuation and not get those multiple drivers if you don't have a process. So
Right.
if think of it this way, if you're in a position where you're evaluating, hey, I want to bring on a sales assistant, you're most likely increasing your operational maturity, you're moving up the lever, you're bringing on processes orientation, but you're also increasing the valuation of your business if it works successfully. Hey, yes, I closed most of the deals as business owner here, and we added 15 new logos in 2024. However, that was largely in part because of the demand gen system I built with the sales
Right.
assistant, where we generate content. Our SEO is on top of the search results. We're driving in meetings every month from inbound. And if you're not the main source, because I think that's the biggest thing, sales and growth matter, but if you have a business that generates inbound attention, people contacting you, you're going to have a better valuation than outbound, because you can't always quantify or process orientation, the Laels, the Caseys, the sales professionals, because there is something that makes them unique. But if you can process that and take it into a systemized approach, it's going to improve your valuation. And the sales assistant is a big part of that, because then that business owner can say, oh, or the buyer can say, I know that we can grow. They add clients every year. There's probably going to be a little bit of a fix up period for 3 to 6 months of ramping up. But then I know the system exists during that time frame, as opposed to, hey, I need Joe Schmo owner to stay around for 6 months to a year as we get settled out. And then you're
Right.
not able to enjoy your island. You're a part of that business. And like you said, you essentially sold yourself into a job again.
Right. Right. Yeah, for sure. I want to take a moment just to share with people that are listening. Um, so if anybody's interested in having a conversation, of course, there's links on the site. You can get on my calendar. I'm happy to talk to you. More than that, if you're listening right now live, what we've done is we've lowered our setup fee. So all of our prices are on the website. Everything's totally transparent. We charge a setup fee, which typically is $2,000 to get started. It gets you through the recruiting process, all the onboarding, the training, everything else. We've lowered it down to about $500 just
Wow.
for today. So if you're listening to this right now, or you're listening, you can open the link and check with your business partner or whatever. Come back and sign up today. It's $1,500 in your pocket for nothing, just for being a fan of Stride Live. And we look forward to supporting you.
Make sure I put that in the chat too, for the direct link for everybody that's within here, and it'll show up here. Reduce enrollment fee today only.
Yeah, so it's just augmentor.com. You can Google it, or you can find us on socials.
So, and I can't speak highly enough of the service. It works. It's great. Lael's team goes through a great selection process. And it's also, as he said, it's customized for you. I needed somebody on Google with Pipe Drive and very specific knowledge. They found them. They found the right person. And yeah, you'll interview multiple. There's plenty of candidates. The process is seamless. Shout out Martin too. He's also incredibly helpful. I know there's a bunch of, beneficial people that work for this organization, but really, I can't speak enough of the ROI that it's provided me. I've been able to step out of that sales, the day-to-day prospecting, and some of that grind. I'm still owning that process. I'm still putting in my inputs respectively, but it's not dependent on me. Things continue to move without me having a pulse, which is the biggest value proposition I could say. Things keep moving. I'm not worried about taking a day off here now then, because I know Stride Lives are produced, blogs, content, SEO, LinkedIn posts, not just for myself, but the other leaders. So I can't say how valuable it is enough. So we're about at our time here. So too long, didn't watch. Well, what's the one piece of advice in 60 seconds or less a business owner can use today to bring value to their business?
Yeah. So what we say around here, just to encapsulate the whole thing, is if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant, because that assistant work has to get done. It's being done by you today. And that's the most expensive assistant you could possibly have.
Yep.
Hire a $20 an hour assistant, invest a couple $1,000 a month, free yourself up to make more money and do the important things in your business.
I think that is about the most valuable piece of 60-second advice that we could get. Lael, thank you again. I really appreciate you taking the time today. You can reach out hello.augmentor.com and you can reach out and find them today. Remember, that sale is just for today only. Thank you again for joining Stride Live today.
Thank you. Love being here.
All right. Thank you. We're off on LinkedIn.